Today gamers, we're going to be taking a look at the starting cast of the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I'll be going over the 4 main characters that you can choose from at the start, what they bring to your team, the weapons they work with best, and why you may want to choose one of them as your main character. Each character in this game has their own unique playstyle, as well as a certain weapon set that they can use. And with that, the first person we're going to be looking at is going to be none other than...
This is King Shark.
If you're looking to main an absolute powerhouse, then you should look no further than this guy right here. Having gone up against some powerful heroes in his time, such as Aquaman and Superboy, King Shark is actually classed as a demigod, and with just how much damage he can take in this game, you'd definitely believe it. He's by far the tankiest of all the Suicide Squad, but don't let that fool you, as he can also dish out every bit as much damage as he takes. His traversal sees him leap high up into the air, and if you need a little bit more distance about yourself, then he'll use his arms to propel himself forward. For taking on the waves of enemies ahead of you, King Shark's 3 weapons of choice are shotguns, assault rifles and heavy weapons, with him being the most proficient in the last due to his passive from his skill tree, known as Firepower. This adds 20% damage to weapons of the heavy category, as well as increased stability. Looking over his skill tree, and you can see that he is far from lacking in any real areas, as not only does he have some great damaging potential, and some nice ways to create damage over time effects from bleed, but he also has some great ways to reduce and mitigate damage when needed, as well as extra ways to get more shield, shield harvest and even a revive, just in case at some points things go completely wrong. Now the squad ultimate ability is the same for all party members, but they manage to have slightly different effects going on with their characters depending on what node you take in your skill tree afterwards. The ultimate is going to slow down enemies and lock down vehicles in the area for 30 seconds, allowing you some much needed breathing room and to make enemies within the vicinity much easier to take down. If you combine this with his tier 10 ultimate shark strikes, it also means it's going to give you 1 free suicide strike when the squad ultimate is activated, and it's going to boost its damage by 100%. This is absolutely amazing. It means you're an absolute powerhouse, as everything will be slow-mo and you're going to be able to dish out some ridiculous damage, especially to single targets, if there's one you need to lock down in that effect. If you're after a character that can take a licking but keep on kicking, then King Shark is definitely the one for you. Next up, and we're going to be taking a look at
George Harkness, aka Captain Boomerang.
the wisecracking loudmouth of the squad, who's an expert at throwing boomerangs, and despite how he acts, is also pretty much a mechanical genius, able to create and adapt boomerangs into powerful weapons in his hands. He's also, as you'll very much find out near the start of the game, had a long-lasting rivalry with the Flash. However, now he has a greater chance than ever to even the score due to his traversal skill he obtained very early on in the game after stealing the special gauntlet. Now Captain Boomerang can also tap into a portion of the speed force, using it to run up buildings or throwing his boomerangs and teleporting forward to its location. He's definitely got the most unique traversal, and it's a lot of fun to use as well. Over to his weapons, and the 3 types that he can use are SMGs, snipers and shotguns. He's got extra proficiency with shotguns, where his passive called Shoot 'em Up gives him a 25% chance to reload his shotgun whenever he takes down an enemy. Looking over some of his other unlockable skills for his skill tree, and it's quite easy to see why the developer called him the most rounded character. He also has a melee with much more range to it due to it being a throwable object, as well as some other really nice skills that can work in unison with this, often making him use melee into your firearms, or vice versa, usually at quite close range in order to reap the most benefits. As with the right upgrades, he'll be able to take advantage of this, gain some extra damage and crit damage and shield harvest as well. In fact, with the right setup, he can almost rival King Shark for survivability, meaning he can really get into the thick of things, whereas others in the Suicide Squad may have to play it a little bit safer and keep a bit more distance between themselves and the enemy. I found Captain Boomerang to have quite a unique playstyle compared to the other members, and required a bit of setup before you really start to see the results with him. However, in the right situations, with the right skill tree, a nice amount of crit damage, some close range damage, and if you want to, a massive amount of damage reduction if you decide to take it, which again allows you for some really nice up close and personal style combat. As well as that, one of his tier 10 abilities, called Speedster's Surprise, gives you a massive 200% extra damage to your traversal attack, allowing you to take out those slow mode enemies ridiculously easy. This works hand in hand with some of the upgrades he's got going on in his skill tree, allowing him to gain that traversal resource very nicely compared to some of the other members of the squad. Boomerang may well not like the Flash, but he definitely has some fun tapping into the speed force and imitating what he can do. Over to the best marksman in the group, and we have
Floyd Lawton, goes by Deadshot.
If you're after a character that can take enemies down at range, then Deadshot's the pick for you, and fitting perfectly with this is his traversal, as you can use a rocket pack and you get some great airtime for those long range accurate shots. Whilst Deadshot is definitely more inclined to take shots at a medium to longer range distance, his weapon selection means he has all the tools ready to tackle any situation if needed, as he's able to equip pistols, assault rifles and sniper rifles. and because of his passive, he's more apt with sniper rifles than the rest of the squad, with every 2 on his combo meter making his sniper rifle crit hit damage go up by 2% as well, allowing him to get some great damage output at higher combo counts. In fact, if you're picking up Deadshot, it's probably because you like seeing big damage numbers, and a DPS role is usually going to be your go-to style of play. He has some great ways to generate crit chance as well as crit damage, more so than any of the other squad members. The downside to this, however, is that sometimes he does feel a little bit on the squishy or glass cannon side compared to some of the other characters. So as well as investing in some amazing buffs from your skill tree, make sure you pick up a few that will help to mitigate damage, as well as help keeping your shield would be ideal. Fortunately, his tier 1 unlock on his first skill tree allows him to do that nicely, but as you start tackling some of the later and tougher content, you'll see most times Deadshot is about taking out the enemy before they can take you out, with a hit 'em fast and hit 'em hard approach going on, and ideally at a little bit of range. Luckily, his melee attack is his wrist-mounted rockets and have the best distance of all of the group, so works perfectly with this playstyle. If you grab his tier 10 ultimate, Power Conservation, both your suicide struts as well as your fuel dump attack will build up 50% faster whilst the squad's ultimate is up, allowing him to in most cases pull off some massive damage in that time period. If you're after a high skill, high damage character, very much risk and reward going on that has some insane DPS potential, then Deadshot's the one for you. Just make sure you're on point with your dodges and crit counters, because you won't be doing much damage if you're on the floor waiting for a revive. Last but definitely not least, everyone's favourite bundle of crazy,
Harley Quinn.
To sum up Harley in one word, I'd have to go with nuts, and I mean that literally and in the game. She can do a lot of stuff and do it all very well. With just how popular Harley Quinn is, I hadn't actually realised until I made this video just how young a character she actually is in the grand scheme of things. She's only really been around for about 30 years, which is quite a short span when you compare it to some other DC characters such as Deadshot. Harley's traversal is none other than that of the grapple hook and bat drone, which you'll obtain, like the others, very early on in the game. I found this probably one of the easiest traversal skills, as you zip around at a good pace, and it also allows you to have some great hang time, so you can swing from the wing while shooting and taking advantage of any airborne buffs, which was great if you needed a bit of distance between your enemies. Her weapon selection as well is really nice, as it gives her lots of options. She can use SMG, heavy weapons, and most importantly, she can also use handguns, which she's better with than the rest of the squad, as she'll get a bonus of 1% every one combo. Also, another great thing about Harley, she gets an additional 35% more firearm ammo with all of her weapons. If you like build variety, I'd say she's probably the best pick, as she has so much going on in her kit that you can quite easily turn her into a gun-toting assassin with bleed damage, or you could chuck a whole bunch into melee, try to do some bleed effects with that, as well as some crazy buffable damage if you're after that close range build, or you could even make her an explosive expert and chuck a lot of your upgrades from your skill tree into grenades, making those proc more often and doing a lot more damage. She really is a great choice if you like to have multiple loadouts, keep the same character, but you want to change your style of play within missions. Another really nice thing with her is that the squad ultimate, when combined with some of the upgrades from your skill tree, can make for some crazy survivability, such as the tier 10 talent Ultimate Refresher, which will regenerate 100% health and 200% shields when activated, to keep you in the fight if things get really tough. Harley definitely has some of the best ways in the game to amp up your damage and can be ridiculous fun to play, but at the same time, as with all characters, she does have some downsides. The main one that I can see with her is probably going to be her crit and crit damage. She has no real means of boosting her crit chance or her crit damage, so if you're going to be trying to build around a weapon that does that, or trying to build around a character that can get the most from that, it may well be best to leave her alone and go after another member, maybe leaning towards someone like Deadshot. Overall though, all of the Suicide Squad are an absolute blast to play, and where you can change them in between missions, I would highly suggest trying them out, leveling a few of them up, putting some builds together and seeing which one you enjoy most. There's going to be a lot of content coming your way from me over the next few weeks on this, hints, tips, guides, builds, as well as a bunch more. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. For now, take care. I'll see you on the next day.